Hi, my name is Korame, and today I'll be talking to you guys about healing the third boss inside of Temple of the Jade Serpent, Flameheart. So if you've ever healed this boss, or especially if you're the one that's tanking this boss, you were probably intimately familiar with what she does in her second phase, which is Jade Serpent Strike. So from when she hits 70% to when you push her down below 30%, every about 20 seconds she's going to put out this debuff. It does a lot of damage, it leaves a dot, and it leaves a healing absorb. There's a lot of pressure on you as the healer, and also on the tank, and just rotating between the tank and the healer to make sure that you can get that healing absorb off before the tank dies. It's definitely one of the harder tyrannical bosses, especially depending on what tank you have. If you have something like a Blood Decay or a Prot Paladin, they handle it pretty easily, but something like a Prot Warrior, you're going to have to be pumping healing into. Now, in addition to there being some advantages of being a certain tank, there's also advantages of being a certain healer. Right now, the sentiment in the community is that Evoker isn't a very strong single target healer for this fight. I kind of disagree. I think you kind of have to plan out your CDs a bit more carefully than some of the other healers, but you definitely can heal them. So I'm going to show you guys kind of the order of CDs I use and how I set things up for each one. And I'm also going to show you guys a video of me doing a 24, it's either yesterday or the day before, the days are kind of mashing together, just to give you an example of how I usually do it in action. But first, let's look at the CDs. This is usually the CD setup that I go for. So on the first one, this is usually where I ask for the tank to use their largest CD. It's the first one that comes out, so they're probably going to have their CD. You just went through the first 30% of the boss, and that part is pretty easy, so they didn't have to use any CDs to go through that. And they normally will want to get whatever their largest CD is on cooldown as soon as possible. So for warriors that are running 1 minute wall or whatever, or 2 charge wall, they want to press shield wall and their spell block on this one. Anyways, so I do a stasis, and then I step with a verdant embrace, and then an echo, and into a living flame. So the idea behind this is that you are doing a lot of verdant embrace healing, but you're also taking good advantage of Call of Asera here to buff your living flame that goes into them. And then on the next one, you're basically just going to echo them before and then stasis. And then the third one is going to be echoing them, verdant embracing them, and then Emerald Communion. And this is also normally where I time dilation them. I'm going to go over some of the nuances of them at the end. I just want to kind of redo them first. And then the fourth one is Rewind. So Rewind in 5-man content heals 100% of the damage taken. So normally you think of this as being like an AoE CD, but as a single target CD here, it's also really good. You could also just follow that up. Like you just press Rewind and you can verdant embrace, or you can press Rewind and then put like a reversion on them to get some nice golden hour healing. I'm not including reversion in any of the combos here, but this is also a nice way to do a little of extra healing because they just took a big hit. So golden hour is going to get some good value here. And then the fifth option here, so if you get to 5, so in the example I show you, we only get to 4, and this was a fortified week. Also, normally on a tyrannical week, you're going to be lusting the second phase. So most of the time, you can count on not getting more than 5, but I do have 7 options here for you if you do end up going all the way to 7. Okay, so the idea behind the fifth one is to be taking advantage of Lifebind healing. So you get as many echoes out as possible. You don't actually have to get out 5, so only put 4 in order to make this effective. You activate your Tip the Scales, you verdant embrace your tank, and then you activate Spirit Bloom. So the Spirit Bloom for me, baseline without any buffs, a single person does 95k. So if I put it on the entire group, all that Lifebind healing is going to result in another 180k, plus the verdant embrace, which is 60k, plus the replicated verdant embrace of 60 plus 60 plus 95 plus 185. That's pretty much going to full heal your tank instantly. And then for the sixth one, if you get here, you need to pre-set up your stasis, and there's a reason. So on this first one, you see that I put verdant embrace as the first thing in your stasis. So verdant embrace is a 20-second CD. This debuff comes out about every 20 seconds, and if you aren't hitting it right at the beginning every single time it comes out, you're not going to have it at the beginning the next time it comes out. So the reason I have it this way is because you want to make sure you get a verdant embrace inside of your stasis, but you can't do the beginning of your stasis because you can't wait till the debuff comes out, activate stasis, verdant embrace, echo, then life, and then do a living flame, unless the tank has a big CD here like they did on the first one. So let's say that your tank has the same CDs they did here and they live with it fine, then you could do that combo. But otherwise, the idea is to stasis, living flame, echo before the debuff comes out. And then as soon as the debuff comes out, you press verdant embrace, you now have a full stasis, and you just activate it. And then it does the and then this is buffed by Call of Asera because you just verdant embraced, and then you get an echo into a verdant embrace, and that should pretty much top your tank. And then the 7th option here is it's really similar to the 5th option, which is where you're just putting full echoes out. Then you're doing a fire breath to get full leaping flame stacks from this talent right here. So you have the 5 living flames that are going to cleave on everyone. And then you Verdant Embrace, and then you now you have the light binds on everyone, and then you are going to Living Flame. It's going to cleave on everyone, and that should pretty much top your tank. Okay, so let's run through the basics. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the nuances that you guys are seeing here, because I didn't talk about these echoes I have you casting on yourself at the beginning. So I just want to show you something in case you aren't aware. Okay, so there's 2 ways to do these. So if you just put an echo on your tank, this is what's going to happen. You're going to Verdant Embrace them, and then they're going to get 2 Verdant Embraces, right? And then you're also going to heal yourself a little bit with Life Bind. However, if you echo yourself and you echo your tank, it's going to replicate the Verdant Embrace healing on you, and then you're also going to get Life Bind healing on your tank. So if you just put echo on your tank and then you Verdant Embrace your tank, you're just going to heal them with Verdant Embrace. But if you put an echo on yourself first before you do your Verdant Embrace, you're also going to get some free healing from your Life Bind. So normally there's extra healing. So this is from a crit, because this is based on this 131, the Verdant Embrace it crit from my echo. So since that crit, this also crit. So you can normally say this is gonna be like 23k. So this is me doing this all like without like any buffs or anything. It is just an extra free 20k healing just for pre-echoing yourself before the go. So if you're like, because you're stressed in that time period to heal off that shield as fast as possible. So anything that you can do ahead of time to make it easier for when you do have to heal off the shield, to get the shield off as fast as possible, is usually worth it. So that's why I put the echoes here in gray, because they're not like really required, but it is a free at least like extra 20k healing each time if you make sure to pre-echo yourself before. So I did just want to throw that in there in case you weren't aware of that. Okay, and then now I'm just going to show you it all in a video. Okay, so here is the example I wanted to show you. So this was from one a couple days ago. It's a 24 fortified. We have a Vengeance Demon Hunter tank, so they're kind of so-so for dealing with this. They're not as great as something like Blood DK and Prot Paladin is, but not as scary as something like a Prot Warrior is, at least for the ones I've healed. That's what I've felt so far, but maybe other people have a different sentiment than me. I can only base that off of the tanks that I've healed, or the players I play with. Anyways, she's casting Jade Essence, which means she is about to go into the phase. So what I usually do here is I tell the tank, I'm going to have low healing for the first one. So I want you to pop like a good defensive, and then after that, I have you pretty much covered. So now let's say your tank says, actually, I don't have a defensive here. So there's a couple things you can do. You can either pre-do your stasis. So you can just move this whole thing up one, like scratch out one and just pre-set up your stasis beforehand so that when it comes out, you just release your stasis. That's one option. Or the reason I have this TD kind of grayed out is because you could put your TD, if you put your TD on one, it's possible for you to get it back for the 4th one instead if you want to do that. But you do have to kind of pre-do it on one if you want to be able to pre-do it before it actually comes out on 4, because like I said, they're like 20 seconds apart. So like if you do it like right before this one comes out, like, and when I say 20 seconds, I mean like 19 seconds. It's not quite 20. Then you're going to have trouble getting it on the 4th, but you could always reliably do it on the 1st and the 5th. So it's kind of just like a pick your poison, but you can just like, if you don't ever want to have to rely on your tank having a CD for that first one, you can always just move this up one and you have a viable way to heal 5 with like all of this set up. The thing is, I usually just try to avoid ever getting to the 5th one, because casting echoes, if you aren't playing Resonating Sphere, taking the time to cast the echoes is like really annoying. Resonating Sphere is good in here. And this example I'm showing you, I am actually playing Nosdormer's Teachings because I've been experimenting with it this week for DPS. So that is a sad point. Okay, so again, we're getting in here. So what I normally do here is I normally do a stasis. I precast the echo, stasis, Verdant Embrace, and then Living Flame. However, I activated my stasis after I already consumed my echo, so in this example, I'm actually doing the wrong thing, so please look at my other thing. Don't look at what I'm doing here. This is a do as I say, not a do as I do moment, because I actually end up echoing inside the stasis instead, because it's more important that I get at least the one echo here, if I can pre-do it, and that's enough healing. So I just echo, Verdant Embrace, Living Flame, but just to let you know, to do the maximum healing, you would pre-echo, and then activate stasis, Verdant Embrace, echo, then Living Flame. But it's so much healing, and he had a decent CD here, so it doesn't really matter for this one. So that is the first one. We're going to clear our debuff. This is not spooky at all. And then we're getting ready for the next Serpent Strike, which is coming in about 3 seconds. So as you can see, like the timing I'm saying, so I Verdant Embrace as soon as that last one came out, and this is coming out in 1.5 seconds, and my Verdant Embrace is coming up in 1 second. So when you are Verdant Embracing, like if you have to Verdant Embrace 2 back to back, make sure that you're doing it like right at the beginning of the debuff. Also, when you release a stasis, let's say the tank isn't topped, it will be tempting to Verdant Embrace. However, if you do that, you might screw yourself for the next one, because then your Verdant Embrace isn't going to be up right when the next debuff comes out. So that is my warning to you. If you are going to Verdant Embrace, make it your first global if you need it for the next one. So this one goes out. So I put out the stasis, and it was mostly enough, and then I just put out a reversion there, just to get off that last little bit of healing that we needed. And the Temporal Anomaly is giving a nice shield, but it's mostly just like bringing down my empowerment spells for me. So this one, I am already in melee. I already have the Echo, and this is the third one that's coming out. So I'm going to VE, and I'm going to Emerald Communion. If you want to do this on this fight, it is very important that you are able to move while communing with the Dream, because you have to get in melee to get there, and then you need to move out to dodge, as I'm about to show you. So I'm Emerald Communing, and it's important that I'm moving so that I can get out of the circle, and I can also dodge the waves. So very, very important that you're taking the moving Emerald Communion and not the one that increases your health pool talents. Okay, so that was the third one. So next one is going to be the Rewind. That was also where I popped a TD, was on that Emerald Communion one. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. This one comes out, I press Verdant Embrace, and then I also just like press, what's it called? Echo into a reversion. As you can see, it heals off before the reversion is even done ticking. Rewind is really good for this. And then after this, we of course are just going to push the boss below 30%. We didn't pop Lust here, but it is fortified on a Tyrannical week when you're most likely going to be lusting that phase, or you may be saving it for the third one. The fourth boss is what I meant to say. You might get more than what we have here. So that is why I made sure to include all these other things, because I've done these before. So you can get all the way up to 7 healed. After 7, I don't know. You can basically like do this one like almost every single time, but like I said, it is just a pain to set up if you don't have the talent that lets you put out the echoes, the Resonating Sphere. Also, if you don't put out full echoes, it's probably going to be fine, but with the new Temporal Anomaly, if you're playing Resonating Sphere here, it's really easy to get the echoes on everyone, since it doesn't stop and it's just going to keep going. It's actually going to hit your range, whereas before these changes, it would have been a little bit harder. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck in your keys.